Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. In this guide for Yunli, I'll be covering her best relics, light cones, team comp, rotations, pros and cons, and whether she's worth building. You can sit back and relax, and if you find this video helpful, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Do you have a character or light cone in the game that you really want, but you don't have enough StellarJades? Fortunately, lootbar.gg allows you to buy StellarJades at a discounted rate for all regions. Lootbar is one of the fastest and most reliable recharging platform with attractive discount rates. For an example, I will buy the 1980 StellarJade package for $26.40, which otherwise would have cost me $29.99, saving me a total of 20%. And also new users get an additional 5% off. To purchase, simply enter your UID and region and to receive your package in less than 30 minutes. All recharges are done through the official channel with miHoYo, which allows you to enjoy all top-up offers. Now you will be ready to get your favorite characters. Check the link in the description and pinned comment to get the amazing discounts. I won't delve into her abilities since I've already made a video on that. For an overview, Yunli has the physical element and follows the path of destruction. She excels in both single target and AoE scenarios. She works well in both FUA or single hypercarry teams. For her best price to performance Eidolons, E0 is more than sufficient, as higher Eidolons aren't needed. However, her E1 is quite a lot better compared to her signature light cone. Remember, failing your 50-50 for units is better than failing for signature light cones. Building Yunli for the body crit rate or crit damage. Crit damage is the better option if you're running Valorous and Salsodo. Boots attack % only. Ideal stats and substat priority. Ensure you have at least a minimum of 60% crit rate. 70% crit rate is ideal, as missing crit hits will significantly drop Yunli's DPS. After that, focus on crit damage and attack %. Lastly, defensive substats are needed. Relic sets. You can choose any of the listed sets. The new Relic Set gives the highest DPS output, plus that 6% crit rate helps you to hit 70% crit rate on Yunli easily. If you have a double S tier set with a total of 70% crit rate, there's little value to use your fuel to get perfect relics for Yunli, as it would most likely not affect your cycle clears. Planar ornament. Rope prioritize attack %. Orb. Physical damage is slightly better compared to attack %. If you're running her signature light cone, the one with better substats will come out on top. But if you're running other light cones, you would need at least 3 better substat rolls on either crit rate or crit damage to keep up with physical damage boost. Yunli has only 2 planar ornament sets she can use. Inert Salsodo is the safer and better option due to the 8% crit rate to hit that 70% crit rate threshold. And with the crit rate to crit damage conversion for extra stats. Its DPS only loses by 0.6% compared to the new Relic Set. The new Planar Set is by no means bad, but it's very restrictive as you must have at least one secondary FUA unit beside Yunli to get the highest DPS output ASAP. In short, the new Planar Set is not for those who want to run hypercarry Yunli. Overall, the one with better substats will come out on top as both sets have barely any DPS difference. Moving on to her light cones. She has a ton of options and they all have very similar DPS output. Last place light cones due to restrictions. Blade light cone is slightly better if you're playing Yunli with her best hypercarry setup, as she will be getting hit more often. Secret Vow S5 with bonus damage can almost be on par with Eon. But without the bonus damage, its DPS will be the lowest without its bonus damage. Wolf Walk Time S5 needs a preservation unit with Trend Light Cone. Blue Sky S5 is the most consistent light cone due to its high crit rate bonus, allowing you to focus on more offensive stats. But it's weak against single boss targets like Aventurine, which can manipulate turns where you won't be landing crit hits as often on the second phase. Second place. There are 3 light cones where their restrictions wouldn't pull down her DPS by much. The weakest at second place would be Clara's signature light cone. Even though I say weakest, the DPS difference is very small. This light cone is insanely good due to its near 100% uptime buff plus the healing from this LC, which can come in handy if you don't have a limited 5-star sustain. Fall of an Eon, even without any weakness breaks, loses to Clara's signature light cone by only 2.7% due to that insane 64% permanent attack buff. With weakness break, it outperforms Clara's light cone by at least 5%. YunliHSR barely takes any turns, allowing you to keep that max DPS output. IL light cone is the best. You need to do 2 basic attacks for the max output. But with 1 basic attack to get 1 stack, its DPS will be higher than Clara's signature light cone. With 2 stacks, this light cone will have the same DPS output as Eon with its max buff. First place, Yunli's Sig LC gives 36% crit damage, bonus aggro, and 72% follow-up attack damage dealt. It's honestly a really good light cone with 0 restrictions, but it probably won't affect your MOC cycle clears as the DPS difference isn't that huge. Even if this light cone allows Yunli to get hit 100% of the time, it would still lose to her E1 slightly. Plus that aggro draw is put to waste whenever you use Yunli's ultimate to taunt enemies. DPS calculations for the light cones. First, for those of you who want to pull Yunli's light cone for Clara but skip Yunli, it's not a smart move as Yunli with her worst light cone option will still outperform Clara. Now back on track, players should just use the best option they have available for Yunli, as some of the LC wouldn't affect your MOC runs by 1 cycle faster. Though it might if the DPS difference gap is more than 15%. Players should keep it in mind that Yunli is just really strong. For her team comp and rotations, her best would be with Topaz, Robin and Aventurine. Ruan Mei still works well but loses to Robin slightly. Plus Ruan Mei has delay action. If you don't have Aventurine, you can run Huo as both Yunli and Robin will benefit pretty hugely. Another one of her best would be the Hyper Parry setup. Core units are both Huo and Tingyun. And for last unit Robin is still preferred, but Ruan Mei or Sparkle will also do fine, but they would be quite a lot weaker. Overall this setup is pretty insane. And it will perform better if the enemies does not have fire weak and only physical weak. Both setups would most likely not affect your cycle clears. But compared to Clara's Hyper Carry setup, you need a fully premium setup, just for it to perform slightly weaker compared to Clara's FUA non-premium setup. Another team comp which is only for pure fiction would be to run Jade. As Jade performs poorly for MOC Yunli's pros and cons pros, she's double S tier. E0 sufficient, flexible, can be put into single or dual DPS setup, can be skill point efficient, does not need her signature light cone. Most of her damage output is outside of her turns, making great use of buffs. Great in both AoE and single target scenarios. Cons: not account friendly due to needing at least 2 limited 5-star units for her best team. Can drop to S tier when facing slow enemies. Not a unit you need but want. Still losses to both Acheron and Firefly. Should you pull for Yunli? If you need or want a physical DPS unit, it's alright to go for her. If you don't have her best team setup, no. If you like her design, yes. Overall rating, I would rate her a 7 out of 10. 3 points of deduction even though she has very high DPS output, is because, without physical weakness on enemy bosses, you will get longer cycle clears. Compared to both Acheron and Firefly, they easily brute force it and they have higher usability for more content too. Yunli would be on the same tier as Boothill. Just that you can use her way more often compared to Boothill is just more catered towards MOC. Do let me know your thoughts down below about Yunli and if you're building her. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe, it really helps out a ton. And that's it for this guide.